Hello everyone, Assalamu alaikum. I'm Ana Fasan. In this segment, we're going to look into some applications using stack. Parenthesis balancing. Another word for bracket is parenthesis. Parenthesis balancing means to check whether the brackets in an expression is properly ordered or not. We say the brackets are properly ordered when for every opening bracket there is a matching closing bracket, also when the pairs are properly nested. So here are some expressions. Try to look at them and decide whether the brackets in them are properly ordered or not. So in this equation, this is an expression. So in this expression, we can see that the brackets are properly ordered. How about over here? So you see, for these opening brackets, I do have closing brackets, but they are not matching. Over here, the third bracket is being opened by the first bracket, and these pairs are also not matching. So this is incorrect. Now let's come over here. We see that this and this brackets match. However, there is an extra closing bracket. So this expression is also incorrect. And over here, we can see that there is an extra opening bracket here. And now let's come to this equation. You might be tempted to say that this is wrong by saying 6 plus and there is no other operand here. However, we are only going to check whether the brackets are properly present. So this equation is correct if we are just checking for the brackets. When we feed an equation to our computer, it is important for them to understand whether the brackets are properly ordered or not. So the computers do this using a technique called parenthesis balancing using stack. So in the next slide, we're going to learn how this process is done. What the computer does is it parses the expression or equation character by character. If it sees any opening bracket, then the opening bracket is pushed inside the stack. And if, while parsing, it detects a closing bracket, then the top element of the stack is popped and the brackets are matched. So this is the expression that will be checked whether the brackets inside it are properly balanced or not. So I've written the rules over here. We will parse this expression character by character, and if we see an opening bracket, we will push it inside our stack. If we see any operator or operand, we will ignore it because we are only concerned with the brackets. So for opening bracket, we will push, and if we find a closing bracket, then we will pop. We will pop the stack and we will see whether the opening and closing brackets match or not. So if I start parsing, I see an opening bracket. I will push it inside my stack. And while parsing through these elements, I will ignore them because they're not brackets. And when we see an opening bracket again, we will push it inside our stack. And then we will parse through them. And when we reach to this character, we see that it's a closing bracket. So we will pop our stack. Now let's see whether the opening and closing brackets match or not. Well, they do match. So we will continue parsing our expression. And upon receiving this closing bracket, we will pop the content of our stack. And now let's see whether these brackets match or not. Well, they match because this is an opening first bracket and this is a closing first bracket. And now we see that we are done parsing our full expression. Also, there is no content in the stack. This means all the brackets that we found had a matching pair. Hence, we can understand and deduce that this expression is correct. Now let's check this expression. This is an opening bracket, so I will push it inside my stack. And I will ignore these characters and come over here. This is an opening bracket, so push it inside my stack. Next, I will come here, and since I see a closing bracket, I will pop the content of my stack. Now let's try to match these. Do these brackets match? They don't, because a third opening bracket is being closed with a first opening bracket. So since I see that they do not match, I can conclude that this expression is incorrect. I don't need to parse my expression any further. So at any point in time, if we see that the brackets do not match, then we can conclude that in this expression, the parentheses are not balanced. Now let's look at this example. Let's parse this expression. We find an opening bracket, so we will push it inside our stack. And we will ignore these characters and come over here. Now this is a first closing bracket. So upon receiving a closing bracket, we will pop our stack. Now we see that they match. So we will continue parsing our expression. Now I have received another closing bracket. So the rule is whenever we receive a closing bracket, we will pop our stack. Now when I want to pop my stack, I see that my stack is empty. So before popping, always remember that you must check whether your stack is empty or not. Since I have a closing bracket but my stack is empty, this shows that this closing bracket has not been opened. That's why this expression is incorrect. Hence, at any point in time, if we receive a closing bracket and we try to pop our stack and see that there is no content, then we can conclude that this expression is incorrect because this closing bracket does not have a opening bracket. Now let's check this final expression to see whether the parentheses in it are balanced or not. So since this is an opening bracket, I will push it inside my stack. I see an opening bracket again, so this will be pushed inside my stack. And then when I come to this character, I see that it's a closing bracket. So upon receiving the closing bracket, I will pop my stack and I'll see whether the brackets match or not. Well, they match, so I will continue parsing. So now I see that my expression has ended. And although the previous brackets matched, I see that my stack is still unempty, okay? There is content in my stack. So this means that since my stack is not empty, that means there is one or more opening bracket in my stack. So I can conclude that this expression is not balanced because I have finished parsing this whole expression and still my stack is non-empty. There are still opening brackets in my stack. This means that this opening bracket has not been closed in my expression. So whenever you are done parsing your equation, always check whether your stack is empty or not. If your stack is empty, then your expression is correct. If your stack is not empty, this means your expression is not properly balanced with the parenthesis. So this is how we can use a stack to detect whether the parenthesis in an expression is properly balanced or not. So we say that the brackets are properly balanced when all the pairs of brackets will match and also when the expression is done being parsed. If the stack is empty, only then we can conclude that the expression is properly balanced with the parenthesis. As we have seen the simulation, now I would recommend you guys to try the code by yourself. Try writing the code where you will take an expression as string and you will check whether the brackets in the expression are properly ordered or not. So you see when we write the code inside our IDE, And sometimes if we miss a curly braces for our class or any method, then our compiler tells us that there is a problem, right? So when we write our code and click on compile, what our compiler does is it checks for parenthesis balancing, whether the brackets are properly placed or not. So when you are done creating this code, you will have built a small compiler that will tell you whether an equation is properly written or not.